Have you ever walked into a garden and just assumed it was completely quiet?
Oh yeah, like everything is just perfectly still.
Right. You stroll in, you take a look around, and you notice the obvious things. There's a tomato plant over there, a patch of grass here, maybe a tree just kind of moving in the wind.
The surface level stuff.
Exactly. It all seems totally peaceful. But if you actually stay there for a while and you look closer, you realize the place is incredibly complicated.
Underneath the soil.
Under the soil, yeah. Roots are engaged in this, invisible, intense competition for water, but they're also simultaneously cooperating through these vast fungal networks.
Right, the mycelium.
Yeah, and bees are constantly carrying chemical messages between the flowers. Some plants are aggressively, almost violently reaching for the sun, while others are thriving perfectly in the dark shade.
It's basically a war zone and a utopia all at once.
Totally. And, that seed that looked completely lifeless in the middle of winter, it wasn't dead. It was just waiting for the exact right combination of temperature and moisture to finally break open.
It's an entire hyper-complex ecosystem operating right under our noses. But, I mean, we only see it if we shift our perspective from looking at isolated individual plants to looking at the interactions happening between them.
Which brings us to today. Because that hidden ecosystem, that vibrant, noisy garden hiding underneath a quiet surface, is exactly how an artist named Max maps out his own brain.
It's such a fascinating source document.
It really is. It's from his notes, a document he calls Kelly in a Nutshell. And honestly, it outlines what is essentially a masterclass in personal psychology. So our mission for this deep dive today is to explore this framework he created.
Where he organizes his mind into 10 distinct subpersonalities, right?
Yes, exactly. 10 distinct voices. And by unpacking his system, we're going to discover how tuning into our own inner voices can radically change how we navigate our lives, our art, and, well, our inevitable brush with burnout.
Which is something I think everyone listening can relate to.
Oh, 100%. So, okay, let's unpack this because it's such a brilliant way to look at the self. We shouldn't think of this as a clinical diagnosis.
No, definitely not.
Right. I want you, listening right now, to think about your own mind. You definitely have a part of you that wants to make a meticulously detailed, bullet point plan for your weekend.
The spreadsheet part of the brain.
Yes. But then you also have another part that just wants to throw the schedule out the window, get in the car, and take a massive, wild risk.
And usually we just feel paralyzed or stressed by that contradiction.
We just fight ourselves. But Max actually gave those different urges names.
And that's a crucial distinction. Naming these recurring patterns, giving them distinct voices, job titles, and acknowledging what they actually value, isn't about fragmenting the self into broken pieces.
Right.
It is fundamentally a tool for better listening. I mean, think about the mechanics of it. When you feel that urge demanding a rigid plan, if you just label it anxiety, your immediate instinct is to suppress it. You fight it.
Because anxiety is bad.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But if you recognize that voice as a distinct part of your internal ecosystem that is desperately trying to keep you safe from failure.
Then you can engage with it.
Yes. Yeah. You can negotiate. You stop fighting yourself and you start integrating.
But to understand how those negotiations happen, we have to look at the environment where all these voices live, right? Before we zoom in on the main focus of our source material, the subpersonality named Kelly, we have to understand the ecosystem she operates within.
The spaceship.
Yes, Max uses this incredible metaphor for his mind. He calls it the Later Days Spaceship.
And the spaceship is the perfect vessel for this concept because, well, a ship traveling through unfamiliar territory requires a crew with highly specialized, often conflicting skills. No single crew member can run the ship alone.
Right, they'd crash.
Exactly. So in Max's mind, you have Addie, the scout. Addie's job is to bring wonder, play, and just relentless optimism to the journey.
We all need an Addie.
We do. But then you have Devin, the protector, whose entire cognitive function is dedicated to assessing danger, looking for threats, and preparing for catastrophic crises.
The anti-Addie.
Basically, yeah. And you have Val, the warrior and strategist, who cuts through hesitation to take decisive action. But crucially, Max himself is the person sitting at the center of the bridge.
He's the captain.
He operates as the creative director and the integrator of the ship.
Right, because Max is the actual human being who ultimately has to live in the physical world and deal with the consequences of all this. He doesn't just blindly obey whichever voice happens to be screaming the loudest in his head on any given Tuesday.
He can't.
No, he has to listen to the crew, compare their inputs, revise the data, and synthesize a singular choice. But I have to admit, I read this and thought,
Wait, doesn't this cause chaos?
exactly. Wait, doesn't giving all these distinct opposing voices a seat at the table just create total chaos? Like if every single urge and fear gets a microphone, how does anything ever get done?
Well, the text actually addresses that exact fear with a brilliant piece of honesty. Max writes, and this is a great quote, "Sometimes that process is harmonious. Sometimes it resembles 10 people trying to choose a restaurant while the spaceship is on fire."
Oh my gosh, that is just laugh out loud accurate to the human experience.
Right, it's so real. But what's fascinating here is how the source illustrates this integration with a highly specific scenario.
Okay, lay it out.
Imagine Max is preparing to release a deeply personal, vulnerable piece of art, say, a song that involves really painful memories.
Okay, high stakes.
Very high.
Yeah.
If he just hands the wheel to Addie, the scout, Addie is thrilled. Addie says, share it immediately. Being real and raw opens new doors to the universe.
Just hit publish right now.
Exactly. But Devin, the protector, hears that and just slams the emergency button. Devin warns, once this is public, you can't control how people react. You will be exposed. Protect your privacy at all costs.
Oh, wow. So instant gridlock.
But wait, there's more. Meanwhile, Kenny, the quartermaster of the ship, completely ignores the emotional weight of the song and starts rapidly drafting a logistical checklist for release timing, copyright, and metadata.
Just pure spreadsheets.
Yeah. And Val, the warrior, gets frustrated by the debate and demands a firm, immediate decision to either publish the song or delete the file so they can stop wasting energy overthinking it.
It's a full-on hostile boardroom argument happening inside one guy's head.
It is. And the mistake we usually make in our own lives is assuming one of those voices is right and the others are wrong.
We pick a side.
We do. We think we have to kill the fear to let the optimism live. But the profound takeaway from the text is that the spaceship only survives because these roles are fundamentally opposed.
How so?
Think of the causality here. If Devin's extreme caution operated without Addie's boundless optimism, the ship would never leave the spaceport.
Right, they just sit in the dock forever.
Perfectly safe and perfectly stagnant. But if Addie operated without Devin, they'd happily fly straight into a meteor shower because it looked pretty.
That's such a good point.
The internal chaos you feel when making a hard choice isn't a flaw in your system. That chaos is the active, necessary negotiation of your survival.
But there is a fatal flaw in this kind of purely operational survival, isn't there?
What do you mean?
Well, because a crew can be perfectly efficient at dodging asteroids and checking off supply lists, but if they are only focused on the mechanics of surviving, they eventually start to break down emotionally.
Ah, yes.
The system crashes. And that brings us to what happens when the crew forgets to care for one another, which introduces the main subject of our deep dive, Kelly.
On the Later Days Spaceship, Kelly holds the title of the healer.
But she's not a doctor, right?
No, the text makes a very careful distinction here.
Oh.
She is not a healer in a strictly medical band-aids and tourniquets sense. Her form of care is entirely relational.
Okay.
Her radar isn't scanning the stars for asteroids. Her radar is scanning the crew for emotional strain. She's the one who notices the quiet resentment building up between two people, or the profound loneliness of a crew member who just feels ignored.
She sees the invisible stuff.
Exactly. She watches for those microfractures that appear when people just keep producing and functioning without ever truly connecting. The text captures her entire philosophy in one poignant line. It says, "A ship may remain mechanically operational while its crew slowly stops trusting one another." To me, that is still an emergency. Survival without connection is incomplete.
Wow, survival without connection is incomplete. That is a massive paradigm shift.
It really is.
Because most of us just reward the parts of our brain that get the work done, you know?
Right.
And what's interesting is that Kelly has a specific symbolic room in another one of Max's creative internal worlds, this magical place called Manaheim Academy. Her room is called the backyard.
The backyard, yes.
It's this beautiful space that is neither entirely indoors nor fully wild. It's where the safety of home meets the unpredictability of nature. There are long family tables for meals, old climbing trees, fire pits. It's cultivated, but it is deeply alive.
And that distinction between something being merely built versus being actively cultivated is vital to understanding Kelly's worldview. Relationships and emotional health require intense care, but they cannot be engineered or controlled like a machine.
Right.
Healing follows organic seasons, not rigid corporate schedules.
I love how the text points out that care isn't a monolith, because the other parts of the mind do care about the whole.
Oh, absolutely.
Like Bannock cares by offering strong leadership, Devin cares by detecting threats so no one gets injured. Kenny cares by making sure the food and supplies actually arrive. But Kelly cares relationally. If I can offer an analogy here to separate her from the pack.
Please do.
If Kenny is the building's structural foundation, mathematically ensuring the walls don't collapse under pressure, Kelly is the thermostat.
Oh, I like that.
She is constantly, quietly reading the relational temperature of the room to make sure the environment is actually livable for the human beings inside it.
That analogy hits the nail on the head, specifically because Kelly's primary active function on this ship is acting as a relational translator.
A translator.
Yeah, the text breaks down how this works in practice.
Mm.
So when two crew members are having a vicious argument over a navigational plan, Kelly isn't listening to the technical jargon.
She ignores the math.
Exactly. She hears a completely different argument happening underneath the words. If someone is aggressively yelling, "I need more data and evidence before we commit to this route," Kelly translates that. She understands that. Emotionally, they are actually asking, "Can I trust you not to make me carry the heavy consequences if your idea fails?"
That is so deep.
Right. Or if another voice yells back, "Stop overthinking it. You're slowing us down." She translates that to, "I am terrified that your fear will prevent us from actually living our lives."
She completely bypasses the intellectual debate and zeroes in on the subtext, the actual vulnerable fear hiding beneath the anger.
Now, the text makes a critical point here. Empathy is not a magic wand.
Hmm.
Just because Kelly successfully names the emotional layer doesn't mean the disagreement instantly vanishes into thin air.
Right, the spaceship still has to be flown.
Yeah, sometimes two values genuinely fundamentally collide.
Yeah.
But the mechanism of her relational translation, the how of what she does, stops people from treating each other as literal enemies while they navigate that disagreement. She keeps the crew human.
But, okay, if Kelly is so empathetic, so perfectly attuned to everyone else's emotional temperature, what happens when that goes too far?
Well, that's the danger.
Because nobody is perfect, not even a designated, highly evolved healer. If Kelly is constantly absorbing everyone's unspoken stress and fixing their emotional weather, she's going to run out of energy. She desperately needs structure to survive her own empathy, which introduces the profound shadow side of her care and her incredibly complex relationship with her twin.
Yes, the shadow side. Because when Kelly's influence on the mind becomes disproportionate, her care actually morphs into a subtle form of control.
Wait, really? Control?
Yeah. Her greatest strengths sour into her greatest weaknesses. You get severe overaccommodation, chronic people-pleasing, and total self-erasure. She suffers from profound emotional exhaustion because she is absorbing stress that simply isn't hers to carry.
Oh man, I feel like so many people can relate to that.
Her core cognitive error is confusing compassion with personal responsibility. She assumes that just because she understands why someone is in pain, she's automatically obligated to rescue them from it.
Which brings us to the only person who can anchor her, Kenny.
The quartermaster.
Yeah, Kenny is the quartermaster. He's the guy dealing with hard logistics, spreadsheets, structure, and empirical evidence. He is Kelly's twin in this internal ecosystem. And the text dives into these two original songs Max created to explore them, called Kenny's Sister and Two Sides of the Same Coin.
Such a fascinating dynamic between those two.
It really is. Kelly really struggles with being overshadowed by Kenny's loud, dominant efficiency. She asks this heartbreaking question in the text. She says, "Who am I when I am no longer defined as somebody else's supporting character?" She values Kenny's reliability, but she wonders if she even matters to the system when nobody needs her to fix an emotional crisis.
It is the ultimate existential crisis of the caregiver archetype.
Yeah.
I mean, if the entire architecture of your identity is built on being useful, on rushing in to fix the emotional weather for everyone else, who are you in a quiet room when everyone is perfectly fine? Do you still have value?
Here's where it gets really interesting for me. When you look at Kelly and Kenny, the deeply emotional, nurturing sister and the highly logical, logistical brother, it is so incredibly tempting to just write this off as the classic tired heart versus mind trope.
Oh, totally.
You know, like Kelly is just pure feelings, Kenny is just cold logic, but the text explicitly rejects that cliche, right?
It dismantles that cliche completely. The source material clarifies that Kenny has very real emotions and Kelly operates with a very rigorous logic. In fact, her psychological profile identifies her as an ISFJ personality type, possessing strong introverted thinking.
Wait, how does introverted thinking actually function for someone so focused on other people's feelings? That seems like a contradiction.
Not at all. Introverted thinking means she isn't just floating around feeling emotions blindly and reacting on a whim. She's constantly, quietly categorizing those emotions. She is building a massive, internal, logical framework out of how human beings relate to each other.
Oh, so she's studying them.
Exactly.
Oh.
She analyzes fairness, biological limits, and cultural patterns. The difference between the twins isn't that one feels and one thinks. The difference is their focus.
Okay, so how does that actually play out in a scenario? How do they negotiate?
Well, consider how they might tackle a real-world problem together. Say a friend calls Max and asks him for a massive, time-consuming favor, maybe helping them move across the country.
Oh, the dreaded moving favor.
Right, but Max is already completely burned out. Kelly immediately feels the friend's anxiety and desperation. Her instinct is to say, yes, I will sacrifice my week so you don't have to suffer.
Because that's what a good friend does.
In her mind, yes. But Kenny pulls up the internal spreadsheet. Kenny says, we have 3 hours of sleep in the bank, our own projects are past due, and we don't have the fuel for this. The answer is absolutely no.
So they're deadlocked again.
Right. And if they don't integrate, Max either burns out or ruins the friendship. But together, they negotiate. Kelly provides the why we value this friend and want them to feel supported. Kenny provides the how we have exactly 2 hours of free time on Thursday.
I see where this is going.
So Max synthesizes a response. He says, I cannot help you move across the country, but I will come over on Thursday for 2 hours to help you pack your kitchen. Kenny makes care practical and sustainable. Kelly's job is to ensure practicality remembers whom it is serving.
Wow. Practicality remembering whom it is serving. But to actually pull off that kind of boundary to survive her own tendency towards self-erasure, Kelly has to evolve.
Yeah.
She can't just stay the accommodating peacekeeper forever. To avoid system failure, she has to change.
And we see the evolution of Kelly from a childhood state to a mature adult state of mutual care. In her immature state, she operates on the belief that being endlessly helpful and undemanding is how you secure attachment and stay safe.
It's a survival tactic.
Exactly. But the catalyst for her growth is a specific psychological project in the text called the twin mirror.
The core question of this twin mirror project just stopped me in my tracks. It asks, can I become someone whose company feels emotionally safe to me?
It's a breathtaking question.
Yeah.
And incredibly difficult to answer, because actively caring for other people often acts as a smokescreen, revealing exactly what we're withholding from ourselves.
We distract ourselves by fixing others.
Exactly. The twin mirror forces Kelly to ask if she can offer herself the same deep patience, radical forgiveness, and permission to rest that she freely, automatically hands out to every other member of the crew.
It is so radical for a caregiver to actually do that because it feels completely counterintuitive to their entire mission. It's like trying to patch a dangerous oxygen leak on the outside hull of the spaceship without taking the time to put your own spacesuit on first.
Yes.
You think you're being heroic by rushing out there, but you're actually just creating a second casualty for the crew to deal with. But how does she actually achieve this evolution without losing her core identity? I mean, if her whole being is built around caring for others, how does she set boundaries without feeling like a total failure?
The mechanism of this growth requires her to adopt an entirely new archetype.
Sure.
She graduates from being just a healer to becoming the gardener.
Ah, back to the garden.
Right. Think about what a gardener actually does. A gardener is profoundly, deeply invested in caretaking, yes. But a gardener does not force a plant to grow. They cannot control the weather.
They just manage the environment.
They prepare the soil. They tend to what is alive. But crucially, they also ruthlessly prune away branches that are diseased or harmful. And they accept that seasons change, and winter is a necessary part of the cycle. The mature Kelly finally learns the hardest lesson of all, which is that boundaries do not cancel care.
Boundaries do not cancel care. That is huge.
At her healthiest integrated state, she learns to look at a situation and say things like, I hear that you are hurting and I validate your pain, but I cannot carry this for you. Or, I care about you deeply and my answer is still no.
That takes so much strength.
It does. The text provides this incredibly striking metaphor that anchors her new philosophy. It says, a garden protected from every discomfort does not become healthy. It becomes unable to adapt.
So by constantly shielding everyone on the ship from every minor emotional discomfort, the immature Kelly was actually stunting them.
Yes, she was making them fragile.
She was preventing them from adapting and growing strong on their own. By finally setting a boundary, by allowing them to feel the friction of life, she is actually providing a much higher, much healthier form of care. She stops controlling the climate and starts trusting the ecosystem.
She undergoes a massive psychological shift. She moves from the anxious state of, I must keep helping everyone because being needed is the only proof that I matter.
To a completely different mindset.
Right, to the secure state of, I can cultivate connection without controlling others, and I demand for myself the exact same dignity and rest that I offer them.
So what does this all mean for you listening right now? We've talked about spaceships, magical academies, and twin mirrors. But bringing this out of Max's creative notes and directly into your daily routine, this entire framework is ultimately a listening practice.
A very grounded one.
It's a highly practical tool. It gives you a way to finally name the deep existential fear that is hiding underneath your obsession with a daily checklist, or to recognize the profound emotional exhaustion living just beneath your reliable, dependable, I can handle it exterior.
It normalizes the conflict.
Yeah, it's a reminder that, as Kelly explores in a song referenced in the text called Basically Me, an ordinary life, a quiet life of just tending your own garden, can be incredibly valuable without needing to be a grand public spectacle.
And if we connect this to the bigger picture, what Max has achieved by mapping out Kelly and the rest of his crew shows us something vital about human nature. Psychological health isn't just an individual isolated achievement where you optimize your brain in a vacuum.
Right, it's not a solo game.
True health is deeply relational and environmental. We are all part of overlapping ecosystems, our families, our workplaces, our local communities. Kelly's journey reminds us that genuine well-being requires us to actively, deliberately include ourselves in the circle of people who deserve our care and protection.
We have to be a plant in our own garden, not just the person watering it.
That's a beautiful way to put it.
Well, as we wrap up today's exploration of Max's mind, I want to leave you with one final provocative thought to ponder. We spent all this time talking about how to organize the voices in your head, giving the quartermaster his spreadsheets, letting the scout dream, and allowing the healer to set boundaries. But think about this. If you actually succeed in mapping out your own inner crew, and you finally achieve that perfect, harmonious balance where every voice is heard and integrated.
Which is the goal.
Right. Who is the you that is
Right.
actually listening to them? If your logic is Kenny, and your empathy is Kelly, and your fear is Devin, who is sitting in the center chair, are you the ship itself? Are you the captain? Or are you simply the quiet, infinite space that they are all flying through? Something to think about the next time you hear two voices arguing in your head. Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive into the mind, the spaceship, and the garden. We will catch you next time.